Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahe Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahe. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om. May God protect us. May God nourish us. May we work together with energy and vigor. May our study be enlightening and not give rise to misunderstandings. Om, peace, peace, peace. Om Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsa Chanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Bande Jagadguru. I salute Krishna, the Guru of the universe, God, the son of Vasudeva, the destroyer of Kamsa and Chanura, the supreme bliss of Devaki. To all women present here, happy International Day, Women's Day. Yes. For those who do not know, we are working on chapter number 2, the Yoga of Knowledge, Bhagavad Gita. And so far, we made it till verse number 45, 46. And we discussed many, many things. And I'd like to read this to you because it summarizes basically the spirit of what our work should be and how we should look upon work, how our attitude should be. There are two Sanskrit words. One is pravriti, which means revolving towards, and the other is nivriti, which means revolving away. The revolving towards is what we call the world. The I and mine. It includes all those things which are always enriching that me by wealth and money and power and by name and fame. And which are of a grasping nature, always tending to accumulate everything in one center, that center being myself. That is the pravriti, the natural tendency of every human being, taking everything from everywhere and heaping it around one center, that center being man's own sweet self, but not capital self, small self. When this tendency begins to break, when it is nivriti, going away from, then begin morality and religion. Both pravriti and nivriti are of the nature of work. The former is evil work, and the latter is good work. This nivriti is the fundamental basis of all morality and all religion, and the very perfection of it is entire self-abnegation. Readiness to sacrifice mind and body and everything for another being. When a man has reached that state, he has attained to the perfection of karma yoga. Are we there yet?
Almost.
Almost. Well, this is the beginning.
Yes, that's the beginning.
Mm-hmm. So basically here there are two things. One, that is a natural way of how things go in this world for all of us, which is pravriti, everything centered in ourselves. In myself, everything is for me, which is basically the concept of the idea of ego. And that's how we move in this world. But that is not our real identity. Real identity is oneness, capital. So the whole idea behind karma yoga is that, number one, we have to wake up to this and start practicing nivriti, which means revolving away from our small little self, and embracing the big self, the capital self. So traditionally in Hinduism or in Vedanta, we talk about the goals of life. We talked about this in our previous classes. Number one is artha, kama, and dharma. Now, artha means wealth. For the sake of security. We need somehow to feel secure, feel safe, and for that we need to work. And what we get here is money. That's the means. And then once all our basic needs are covered, then we jump into kama. Kama means entertainment, pleasures. And then once we learn the lessons of life, then we awake or discover this idea of dharma, to lead a life based on moral values. And that's where nivriti starts. And it is all heading towards the ultimate goal of life, which is moksha, of liberation. Liberation of what? Of our small identity, of this pravriti. So in verse number 44, we talked about the discrimination of the man. And when the discrimination is stolen, and it is stolen when we are basically attached to pleasure and power. If we are unable to develop that detachment, we will never get to achieve that concentration of the mind, which is extremely, extremely necessary for the absorption in God. So here in verse number 44, basically highlight is that we need to achieve that concentration of the mind. We talked about different kinds of people, especially those who are attached to power and pleasures, and these people are of rajasic nature. Remember? So the intellect is carried away by lack of discrimination, determination, and judgment. Basically, a rajasic nature of a person is a selfish person. Thinking that material accomplishment can make life successful, that wealth and pleasures are the goal of life. They are attached to pleasure and power and deny the truth. Sri Krishna says that these people lack discrimination. Discrimination about what? About what is right and what is wrong. the sense of honesty, the sense of justice, the sense of dharma, the sense of value. Basically, they are stuck in this artha and kama. In verse number 45, we talked about the gunas. The Vedas speak about the gunas and how to overcome them. To lead a life of artha and kama is to lead a life in traigunya, in the three gunas, deluded. So we have to go beyond the gunas. Nistraigunya, nistraigunya. And the gunas, the three gunas, are all over creation. As I said before, guna is a technical term. Pravriti, nature, is constituted of the three gunas. Sattva, equilibrium; rajas, attraction or activity; and tamas, inertia. Now, nature is the three gunas. Wherever there is name and form, nama rupa, there is guna. Guna means the life in the world, the collection of virtues, vicious, and mixed activities, and also their results. We must be free from the pair of opposites. Poise your mind in tranquility, neither acquire nor hoard. Be established in the consciousness of Atman. And Krishna says, always. The ultimate ideal is to transcend sattva and reach the Atman, which is above and beyond the gunas. Heat and cold, pain and pleasure, gain and loss, victory and defeat, duals such as these are called the pair of opposites. They are inevitable in the phenomenal existence. What is a life in traigunya, in these three gunas? Basically, it's a life driven by desires, being confused, under the influence of rajas and tamas, activity and inertia. That life is all about eat, drink, and be merry. In other words, pravriti. The moment we lose sight of our goal of life, the moment we start losing our discrimination and forgetting the lessons of our experiences. Somehow, this was already mentioned in the verse number 44. To be nistraigunya, to be beyond the gunas, to be able to learn from our experiences and make a step forward in our way of life. Human beings are born for some other higher purpose, and that higher purpose is inner growth, to manifest our divinity. Peace of mind does not depend upon what we have, but peace of mind depends upon what we are. We talked about the goals of life and that ultimately we should lead a life based on dharma, leading to moksha. How we need a delicate equilibrium. It is really hard as to walk on the edge of a razor. knowing that forces of nature are in charge, the pair of opposites, the me and mine, my likes and dislikes. Being aware of this, we should somehow devise means to remain always established in the consciousness of Atman. We talked about the unavoidable, and for the unavoidable, there is only one way. We said acceptance. We also mentioned that is one of the most important teachings of the Bhagavad Gita. Non-acceptance would mean or result in fear, sorrow, frustration, depression, delusion. To practice nistraigunya, to be beyond these three gunas, to practice equilibrium. How do we do that? How do we do it? In other words, is we should learn to know how to live.
So in the course of your talking about pairs of opposites, I can see rajas and tamas as being opposites. Extreme activity and inertia. I really have trouble thinking of sattva, sattvic, in the same way. And I understand, ultimately we want to transcend all three, and yet it seems to me that my guess would be that a very, very holy woman, maybe just this side of enlightenment, is probably 99.9% sattvic. I mean, I don't know, I'm making this up as I go. But it seems to me that the sattvic attitude, the contemplative, the satisfied, the full, that seems to me to be just completely in a different typology than the other two gunas.
Well, basically it's equilibrium.
Equilibrium, okay.
Yeah, equilibrium. Neither this nor that. It's sattva, to remain in calmness.
But doesn't that have equilibrium, but I think of it at least of having further connotations of holy, peaceful.
Yes, of course, it is perceived or sensed through that holiness or peace of mind, etc. I really don't want to stress too much. I mean, we already talked about the three gunas in previous classes, and the idea is to move forward.
Yeah,
but I need to somehow recap and so that we are on the same page. The idea is to go beyond. How do we do this? How do we live this life? Basically, there is only one way. In Sanskrit, it's called nishkama, or desireless. Work for work's sake. Now, this is also not easy. It's easy to say, but not easy to practice. The devotion of a man who has any desire is selfish. But desireless devotion is love for its own sake. You may love me or not, but I love you. This love is for its own sake. Understand that a life based on money and pleasures is a superficial life. This is essential. So, in other words, we have to reduce these activities for karma, artha, and kama. Reduce rajas and tamas and put emphasis on sattvic karmas. So it's all about desireless or having no desires, but we understand that desires are wrong. But what is meant by giving up desires? How could life go on? It would be a suicidal advice, killing the desire and the man too. The solution is this. Not that you should not have property, not that you should not have things which are necessary and things which are even luxuries. Have all that you want and more. Only know the truth and realize it. Wealth does not belong to anybody. have no idea of proprietorship, possessorship. You are nobody, nor am I, nor anyone else. All belongs to the Lord. Put the Lord in everything. God is the wealth that you enjoy. He is the desire that rises in your mind. He is the things you buy to satisfy your desire. He is in your beautiful attire, in your beautiful ornaments. This is the line of thought. All will be metamorphosed as soon as you begin to see things in that light. If you put God in every movement, in your conversation, in your form, in everything, the whole scene changes, and the world, instead of appearing as one of woe and misery, will become a heaven.
Is this Swamiji?
Yavanartha udapane sarvata samplutodake tavan sarveshu vedeshu brahmanasya vijanataha. When the whole country is flooded, the reservoir becomes superfluous. So to the illumined seer, the Vedas are all superfluous. To the seer, he who has known the self, the capital self, all the Vedas are of so much use as a reservoir is when there is a flood everywhere.
That's a timely metaphor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So a man possessed of self-knowledge has no need whatever of the Vedas or scriptures. This does not, however, mean that the Vedas are useless. Only to the knower of Brahman, they have no value, as the transient pleasures that derive from them are comprehended in the infinite bliss of self-knowledge. The Vedas and the scriptures are of use to those who are still in ignorance. By faithfully following the sacred books, happiness can be obtained. By leading a dharmic life, happiness can be obtained on earth and in heaven, which are both in the region of the phenomenon. But the various spheres of relative existence become meaningless to the one illumined with Brahma Jnanam. Krishna defines here in this very verse the idea of liberation, the one who is in need of anything, who doesn't need the scriptures, who is fulfilled in himself. He says that Ananda, that fulfillment, the fulfillment that a person enjoys through spiritual wisdom, is all-encompassing fulfillment in which all worldly pleasures are included. So, through worldly achievements, money, status, position, children, wife, all these things are going to give certain fulfillment indeed. But if we analyze the statement, Sri Krishna says that all worldly fulfillments, all worldly pleasures are included in the fulfillment or achievement of that state we call liberation or moksha. It's all included. Within the infinite pleasure, within the infinite beatitude, all the finite pleasures are included. The food consumed in dreams does not nourish the body, whereas what is consumed in wakeful state satisfies both the wakeful and the sleep state. In dharma, artha, kama, and moksha is not included, but moksha, dharma, artha, and kama all are included. In infinite is not included, whereas in the infinite, all the finite things are included. Therefore, it's worth the effort. To convey this idea in this particular verse, Shri Krishna talks about a pond or a reservoir. It's called Udapanam. Sarvata Samplutodaka, everywhere being flooded. In short, finite is included in infinite, but infinite is not included in the finite. Therefore, dharma, artha, and kama are all included in moksha, but moksha is not included in the previous ones. Moksha is compared to the reservoir of water, whereas money and positions, all of them are compared to the various udapanams. Udapanams are the reservoirs, and we do not know when they will get dry. Therefore, you should discriminate well, says Lord Krishna, and choose this goal of life, the ultimate goal of life, which is called moksha. Be intelligent. For this you require nivriti type of life. Therefore, a cultured, discriminative person, through his vijnanam, knowledge, ultimate knowledge, will get the ultimate fulfillment. Now, a vijnani is one endowed with vijnana. Vijnana is a special knowledge of the Absolute, by which one affirms the universe and sees it as the manifestation of Brahman. The vijnani accepts both God with form and the formless, both the personal God and the impersonal. The jnani gives up his identification with worldly things, discriminating not this, not this. Only then can he realize Brahman. It is like reaching the roof of a house by leaving the steps behind one by one. But the vijnani, on the other hand, who is more intimately acquainted with Brahman, realizes something more. He realizes the steps are made of the same materials as the roof, which are bricks, lime, and brick dust. That which is realized intuitively as Brahman through the eliminating process of not this, is then found to have become the universe and all its living beings. The vijnani sees that the reality, which is nirguna, without form, without attribute, is also saguna, with attributes. The vijnani sees that Brahman is immovable and actionless, like Mount Sumeru. This universe consists of the three gunas, sattva, rajas, and tamas. They are all in Brahman, but Brahman is unattached. The vijnani further sees that what is Brahman is the Bhagavan, the personal God. He who is beyond the three gunas is the Bhagavan. Living beings, the universe, mind, intelligence, love, renunciation, knowledge, all these are the manifestation of his power. The vijnani enjoys the bliss of God in a richer way. Some have heard of milk, some have seen it, and some have drunk it. The vijnani has drunk milk, enjoyed it, and been nourished by it. The only way to come out of bondage is to go beyond the limitations of the law, to go beyond causation. But it is a most difficult thing to give up the clinging to this life, a clinging to this universe. Few ever attain to that. There are two ways to do that mentioned. There are two ways to do that mentioned in our books. One is called neti neti, not this, and the other is called iti, this. The former is the negative, and the latter is the positive way. The vast majority of mankind choose the positive way, the way through the world, making use of all the bondages themselves to break those very bondages. This is also a kind of giving up, only it is done slowly and gradually, by knowing things, enjoying things, and thus obtaining experience. And knowing the nature of things until the mind lets them all go at last and becomes unattached. So basically here we summarize how to live this life. According to our teacher, our scriptures, we should lead a life based on moral values, which is a dharmic way of life, leading to moksha or liberation. Now, how do we do that? Well, we have to somehow embrace God in the world. It's not easy because the world has got its laws, has got its powers. So naturally, as one of the Upanishads says, he's as walking on the edge of a razor. But there is no other way. Somehow we need to gain and achieve experience of life. And this, we do it gradually until we become fully unattached. Unless there are some of us who can be completely unattached naturally, without any need of effort. Verse number 47. Karmanyevadikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana ma karma phalaheturbuhu ma te sangostva karmani. You have the right to work, but for the work's sake only. You have the right to work, but for the work's sake only. You have no right to the fruits of work. Desire for the fruits of work must never be your motive in working. Do not become the agent of the results of your actions. Never give way to laziness either. May you not have any inclination for inaction. Be thou not the producer of the fruits of thy actions, neither let thy attachment be towards inaction. Be thou not the producer, etc., means do not work with any desire for results, for actions produce fruits or bondage only if they are performed with desire. This is another important verse, often quoted, which gives the principles of karma yoga. The light of wisdom is thrown here in this verse. Ma kadachana, never, under no condition whatever, may you not have a hankering for the results of action. Whenever you have a hankering for the fruits of action, you will become the agent of acquiring the results of action. Ma, do not, bhu, thus become karma phalahetuhu, the agent of acquiring the results of action. For when one engages in action by being impelled by thirst for the results of action, then he does become the cause for the production of the results of action. Is it clear? May you not, as to, have sangha, an inclination, a karmani, for inaction, thinking, if the results of work be not desired, what is the need of work, which involves pain? May you never have an inclination for inaction, thinking, if the results of work be not desired, what is the need of work, which involves pain? What attitude or what understanding a karma yogi has toward his actions and its results? The action one has done cannot be destroyed until it has borne its fruits. No power in nature can stop it from yielding its results. If you do an evil action, I must suffer for it. There is no power in this universe to stop or stay it. Similarly, if I do a good action, there is no power in the universe which can stop its bearing good results. The cause must have its effect. Nothing can prevent or restrain this. In karma yoga, in the practice of karma yoga, this law is very important to understand and to accept. Whatever action, whatever karma we do, it is going to produce a result. In Sanskrit, it's called karma phalam. We have to have a proper understanding of this and develop a healthy attitude towards both action, karma, and the fruits of action, karma phalam. Proper understanding and proper attitude. Because attitude depends upon my understanding. Without understanding something, I can never have a proper attitude. The moment we understand that actions produce fruits or bondage only if they are performed with desire, karma in itself is not evil. Karma in itself is no evil, but it becomes so when mixed up with desire. Desire-tainted karma gives continuity to the wheel of birth and death. Conquerors of desire are they who care not for the fruits of karma. When our responsibilities are discharged, untarnished by desire, clarity and understanding comes. In addition to it, efficiency increases. In short, we should practice the right attitude towards both actions and results. You have the right to work. First, understand, as a human being, as human beings, we have choices. Certainly, you have a choice when it comes to your actions, the type of action that you want to perform. This means what? That we should be responsible for our choices. So here, we have a choice to choose what to do. But we do not have a choice when it comes to the results of our actions. You see it?
Say that again.
We have choices. We can choose what to do. But when it comes to the results of our actions, we don't have a choice. What comes, comes. whether good or bad. So, we do not have a choice when it comes to the results of our actions. In short, we should choose intelligently or intelligibly and be ready to accept wisely. Make the most of your choices before you take any course of action. Don't blindly jump into any action. Be intelligent enough, strong enough to accept the result. We may do things well, but anytime any external situation can influence our actions and bring about undesired consequences. Therefore, we shouldn't expect the results of our actions. Do your actions, and at the same time, be prepared for any type of result, which is determined not by you alone, but is determined by so many other factors. Therefore, this mental readiness to welcome any result is an intelligent attitude. Hope for the best, but be prepared for the worst. Sri Ramakrishna, when he was asked what is karma yoga, he couldn't help himself. In defining karma yoga, he included God. He says karma yoga cannot be practiced without surrendering the results of your action to God. Its aim is to fix one's mind on God by means of work. That is what you are teaching. He's talking to someone. It consists on breath control, concentration, meditation, and so on, done in the spirit of detachment. If a householder performed his duties in the world in the spirit of detachment, surrendering the results to God, and with the devotion to God in his heart, he too may be said to practice karma yoga. Further, if a person performs worship, japa, and other forms of devotion, surrendering the results to God, he may be said to practice karma yoga. Attainment of God alone is the aim and the end of karma yoga.
A farmer wants to plant an apple orchard. He would never plant a single tree unless he had desire for the fruits. So he is motivated by desire.
Mm-hmm.
You can't say that you should work without desire.
Is it natural? Is it natural?
Natural?
It is not. Is that natural to work without desire?
Not natural.
That's what Swami Dhyanayogananda says. It's not natural. It is impossible. It will be denying life.
Yeah, he would never plant the orchard unless he
It's
wanted
not
to
the desire itself, it's the result you should not be attached to.
Well, he plans to...
We have the right to work, but we should not expect the results thereof.
Of course you expect apples.
They come to you. But sometimes, what if the whole field is flooded?
What?
What if the whole field gets flooded?
Yes.
You did your work, okay?
Then he waits till next year
And keep doing it. Yes. Basically, we should, what is to be detached is to know and understand the laws of nature. Is that no matter what, things are sometimes under our control and sometimes are not.
What I heard you say earlier, which I liked it, was when you were speaking of all of this, and you were talking about the person who actually comes to that place, and when they're there, they do all those things, and they enjoy the money. They enjoy the things. These are all the things that you listed. They enjoy those, but at the same time, they are not desiring those things, but they are living in those things. They're fully embraced in it, is what I see it as. And so they're experiencing it through that kind of experience rather than the experience of the desires. They're experiencing through being in that. I don't know if I'm having a hard time for other people to understand it, but it's just something that I caught.
Well, generally, what happens is in our life, whatever we do, is for the sake of experience.
Yeah, exactly.
Whatever we do, right?
Exactly. But it's not. It's being in the place where it's where you're talking about samadhi, where you are in that place where you have attained, not attained, but you're in samadhi, but you also can enjoy everything in life, but you're detached from it. And so it's the same thing about the apples. You know, going and planting the apple seeds. It's not having a desire, but you know that there's the desire that the apples are coming.
Yes.
Are you done with that?
Well, basically, as you can understand, it's an attitude. It's an attitude of the mind towards what we do and its results. That's the only secret.
Yeah. Swami, I have a small question here. Is there any room for the idea of destiny under the law of karma?
Well, that's karma phalam. That's a different.
Some people attribute destiny to a lot of things. Or one person.
Well, that's then we have to bring up the law of karma and the law of possession, which is very intricate and complicated. But basically, Sri Ramakrishna invites all of us to embrace God, so that we can enjoy our peace of mind. No matter how many times you may try to plant apple trees and you fail, well, how do you explain that? And so there we resort to the law of karma. So it's hard to accept for those who. However, you should never give up. But sometimes in our life, we go through different circumstances for the sake of experience and learning. And yeah.
So wouldn't it be better to say, instead of saying, do your work without desire, because otherwise an orchard would never get planted. Wouldn't it be better to say, do your work with indifference to the results?
Well,
but it isn't always stated that way. It should be stated that way.
Well, what happens is desire. Desire is the problem, Maharaj, and attachment to the results of our actions is what is desire, basically. Either from the consequences coming in the form of objects or pleasure, and basically we are all living in this world of name and form. This name and form is what we call Maya, and in this Maya, which is also called the power of Brahman, is composed of three powers, which we talked about in previous classes. To know all that and to know how it affects all of us, and to somehow devise means to lead with them in this life is to be a karma yogi. Understanding and having that ultimate goal of life, which is freedom. And you can achieve freedom only not by being completely indifferent, but being unattached, by being unattached.
You know, I think you're onto something when you said the problem is with desire. And I would just explore that a little bit further and say, I think it's partially a semantic problem with the word itself, because it has different kinds of meanings. So suppose I'm a farmer, and next to me is an orphanage, and the kids are all starving. And so I want to plant a tree so that I can feed these kids. Now, I think Swami's point is, if I knew that there wasn't going to be any fruit, there weren't going to be any apples, why in the world would I motivate myself to plant a tree? So,
well, that's not quite right, because you know that planting a tree would bring about apples.
I can change the facts however I want. There have been environmental problems in the area, and it's a 50-50 proposition as to whether they're going to be apples. But my point is that I think we need to explore this word desire and how it relates to motivation, and then desire for what. It just, I don't think it makes a whole lot of sense just to talk about without desire, unadorned, without exploring these different types of desire.
These extreme statements, without desire or desireless.
Yeah, exactly. I think we need to parse it out. And
Well,
see
I
what it
think
really means.
I think it is put that way so that we can understand. Maybe sometimes it could be a little bit confusing, because without desire we wouldn't be able to live in this life, in this world.
Yeah.
But the point is that we should not be attached to the results of our actions.
Yeah, that's different.
What happens is generally the desire for something is attachment.
I think the other problem with these types of extreme, if I may, these extreme statements is they fail to recognize, for example, that there can be multiple desires. Like I've mentioned this before here, that one of our long-term devotees to me is a great karma yogi, because he does things like he and a friend would go to senior centers and dance with the old ladies who were lonely. Now, to me, I mean, I just said you wouldn't find that in the Bhagavad Gita, but to me, that's a great act of karma yoga. And it's not that he didn't have desires. I mean, he wanted to go there and do something. But the point is that there were multiple desires, but the main one was to do something unselfish. And I think I think it's the unselfishness of the desire that needs to be explored further. He wasn't doing it because he wanted to get exercise or he needed a date. He was doing it for someone else. Anyway.
Well, I think that's a different thing. Sometimes maybe there are hidden purposes in people's mind, and you pursue doing. Excusing yourself to be, let me just be unselfish, and behind he's trying to meet someone so that I don't know. But basically, you mentioned something which I think is important, which was the selfishness, which is actually the basis of the meaning of the word pravriti. It's all for myself. Yeah. So we are not used to this idea. I wouldn't go that far to call it philosophical, because it's a fact according to the experience of many teachers, that is to be unselfish, to be focused on the capital self, and to work from that self.
That makes sense.
So the only way to be able to experience that is to just put it into practice. Mm? In order to get there, our scriptures say that in order to be able to understand fully, we need to work. We need to work with the right attitude, because by doing that, we purify ourselves.
I just think that, maybe since this is Women's Day, I think for most people, a better way to put it, what I understand that they're trying to say there, is do things like a loving mother does. A loving mother doesn't do things for herself. She has desires and she works hard. But
well, you surprised me.
I wear my
you
sleeve.
always complain when I use bhakti words and bhakti language.
Yeah, you're right. But you know what? I was trained as a lawyer, so I talk out of both sides of my mouth.
No, well, basically it all comes down to that, to be unselfish and just like a mother does. Just love for love's sake, regardless whether you love me or not. I love you, and I love you anyway. Without asking for anything. If we can have or develop that attitude in our life, in everything we do, love for love's sake, that's probably the ideal thing. Now it's easy when it comes to a mother to her child, but when it comes to your planting trees and and not getting the expected apples, sometimes it's not so easy. So you have to trust and love and embrace some kind of higher law of nature. That law of nature, we call it God, because God is the one, ruling this ritam, this perfect equilibrium, and this law of what is right and what we deserve.
Yeah, that's fair.
That's an example about orchard. We have Sacramento. We have a center, and a lot of trees. They're smaller trees, but semi-dwarfs, not standard size. But they fruit for a short time, peaches. And then what are you gonna do the rest of the summer? You can't just let them sit there. You have to water them. It's over 100 degrees for weeks, and so you don't get much payment for your labor, but you get something more, that you have to find in the temple, because.
I think it's just like Maharaj is having a hard time accepting the word desire. I think. And I think it's we can all understand that, and who doesn't? Is as much a hard time we have understanding the word unselfishness.
Well, I can understand it if it means I plant the orchard and I don't care whether I get any results for myself, whether it aggrandizes my income or whatever happens concerning me, I don't care, but I do want apples.
Well, I think it's yes, Maharaj, but you will have your apples. You see here. I mean, if you just like 2 + 2 equals 4. You see, we need to understand this. That whatever undertaking, whatever we do in life, it will bring its consequences, its results. So it's again, it's the attitude that really makes a difference. 2 + 2 equals 4. Just like planting a tree will definitely bring about, apples. What the scriptures are trying to alert us and to warn us is that sometimes in this world has got its laws, and its rules, and sometimes, the fact that we expect things to happen in a particular way to please us, to please the small self, it's bondage.
Is desire akin to greed? Is desire akin to greed?
Unfulfilled desires are.
So they say don't desire out of what you do. Could it be similar to don't be greedy? Like accept what you need, but don't get greedy and want too much. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, to set limits to your desire, to set limits again to your greediness. It's something that probably we need to start practicing.
You can plant apples, just don't hug the whole tree for yourself. Share.
Well, what are you going to do with your apples? Are you going to sell them for the sake of, wealth, and so that you can have the means to look after your family? Okay. Or just like us, we have lots of orange trees, and what do we do with the oranges? I'm the one eating oranges every night. But what Maharaj does is he sometimes puts the oranges on the table so that you guys can help yourselves. So yeah, I am surprised that none of you talked about the fact of not try to avoid action.
One last thing. I want to say one last
What
thing.
action?
Not try to avoid action or inaction. Sri Krishna points that out, and that is something that we'll continue talking next class. But many people think that what's the use of action then if we it has to be desireless, and if action brings about evil and pain, then why should we act? Well, anyone?
Not acting is an action. Swami,
Aversion
Wait.
to it.
I think the crux of the thing tonight is we take action, for the sake of life. That's the thing.
Well, if you use that word, I think that's it. That explains everything.
Well, then you know how to plant the orchard.
Yeah, do everything for love's sake. That's probably one of the secrets of being away from these snares.
There's a question over there.
Yes.
So, going back to the kind of quote you did earlier, is that Maya is here so that we could each, our little egos, experience life and experience the world. And it's okay to have goals. It's okay to have desires. It's okay to plan to build something or to do something. I think that though there's other principle that we touched on tonight that we realize really what this is all about, that we need a healthy sense of detachment from a specific outcome. So if we plant an orchard to then have a bigger house and to plant more apples, and this is our passion, it's just part of ego, it's part of Maya that we're given, right? It's part of our experiment with this, within this.
Well, you are bringing up a very important point. Is that we can't avoid work. We can't avoid action. The moment we are here, action, karma is inevitable.
But it's that healthy sense of detachment from a specific outcome. So if the apples don't work out, if insects get them or something, we still exist, our family still exists, maybe our house doesn't exist, or our orchard doesn't exist, or whatever, but there'll be something else, because we haven't been destroyed. We'll never be destroyed, even death, we won't be destroyed. So it's realizing, part of the realization is that healthy sense of detachment from a very specific outcome. That balances our that's
so
why we created Maya, is so that we could each experiment in our own little egos, with things, whether it's planting apples or avocados or.
So what's the bottom line is the sense of detachment from
Healthy sense of detachment.
healthy sense of detachment from the outcome of our actions. Well, yeah.
I'm sorry, but all of this makes sense. I think just to understand this a little bit better, and for me personally, this is what I'm doing right now. We're coming up with a lot of hypotheticals about apples, and all of that applies. But everyone in this room desired this evening to come here.
Mm-hmm.
And every one of us is having a different experience.
Mm-hmm.
And every one of us has to accept the results of tonight, whatever it is for them. If you can grasp that, then I think that encapsulates exactly what you're talking about, Swami, right? I mean, thinking about it in any other way than the here and now sends us into a tangent that honestly just confuses me. And I feel like that might be the case for everybody.
Well, if you came here with expectations and your expectations were not fulfilled, how about that?
Well, I think you just need to accept whatever the result is. You can come here with expectations and desires.
Uh-huh.
But
So there you go.
I'm walking away out of this room with is what I have to accept
Uh-huh.
and detach from, and then we are where we're supposed to be.
That's correct. Well, I guess that's a healthy way to, or healthy attitude to deal with it.
Over time.
Om Shanti Shanti.